Hello and welcome to the 2019 edition of the International Society for Magnetic Resonance in Medicine meeting. My name is Brian Casey. I'm editor-in-chief of AmpMini.com, and we're here in beautiful Montreal, Canada. I have with me right now Dr. Daniel Sodickson. He is with New York University School of Medicine and an immediate a past president of ISMRM. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
Good to be here.
So, Dr. Sodickson, today's plenary session focused on disruptors in medicine and more specifically disruptors in MRI. Can you talk a little bit about why ISMRM decided to focus on these things that can be disruptive?
Absolutely. So, I think our field of MRI, the broader field of imaging, and really, quite frankly, the world around us, is now being besieged by really an unprecedented set of disruptive forces and disruptive innovations. And it behooves us as a society, just as it behooves our broader society, to take stock of these disruptors so we can figure out how we need to adapt so that we can continue to lead, so that we can continue to provide care to our patients, so that we continue to see what was previously invisible as we do in imaging.
Okay. So what are some of the main things that you see that could be disruptive toward MRI? I mean, it seems like there's a lot of things out there.
Well, there are. I mean, you can list the individual forces, artificial intelligence, the pressure on medical costs and imaging costs. You can also look at all of the individual innovations that are happening in imaging hardware and software. But in some ways, I think we wanted to take a bit of a step back and look at these disruptions in a historical context, to try to get a sense of how disruptions proceed in human society,
right.
So that we might figure out what we can expect going forward for imaging.
And in a lot of cases, disruptors can be a good thing. They can lead to growth, they can lead to innovation.
Absolutely. Without disruption, we would not be who we are. We would not have all the tools that we have. So in fact, I tend to think of it as disruptive forces, which are those pressures that either kill us or cause us to evolve.
Yeah.
But also disruptive innovations, things like the iPhone, which changes the way we interact with each other in our world.
Right. Now, what are some, we're going to be talking to some other speakers from this morning's sessions, but what are some of the big high points that you saw this morning that specific things that are disrupting medicine?
Well, the way we structured the session was in three main themes: disruptors to the way we gather data, so that means our machines, the way we use them to collect information about the body; disruptors to the way we visualize data, so once we have that data, how are we going to see it differently? How are we going to display it and share it differently?
Right.
And then disruptors to the way we interpret data, so how are we in the future going to be interacting with the images and the medical information that characterize what's wrong with our patients. And so there are key things happening in each of these areas that I think are going to change the way we operate as radiologists and also as researchers.
Good. Well, we'll be going more in depth with each of those topics with some of the people that we're going to be interviewing this morning. Anything else? This is anything else from this meeting that you would like people to really kind of focus in on?
Well, I think one theme that I tried to lay out in the introduction to the session was that disruption proceeds in phases. It begins with us, with humans, of course, but then we create machines to amplify our capabilities. And of course, a lot of this meeting is organized around one particular machine, the magnetic resonance scanner, which is a remarkable piece of machinery that has undergone decades of evolution and revolution. But then those machines create data, which over time, as we've seen with computers, with the iPhone, become abstracted and have a kind of a life of its own. And I would argue that we're solidly into the information phase of disruption here. And so that's something you see in the plenary session, that's something you see around the meeting, the influx of artificial intelligence, but even more, the way that we use the imaging data now to integrate with other parts of medicine, to tell us more and more about our patients, to predict in some ways the future of those patients, rather than just characterizing the lesions that we see.
Right, and that's where we start getting into precision medicine and that kind of thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's a theme that you'll see throughout the meeting all of this week, and a theme that is really taking the field by storm.
Okay, very good. We'll be looking forward to seeing all of that here in Montreal.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Signing off for AmpMini.com, my name is Brian Casey.